Okay, calling to order this meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. Would you call the roll?
Molly Bales. Annette Stone.
Here.
Jim Morrison.
Here.
Trip Ure.
Here.
James Bisbee.
Here.
Ruth Cox.
Present.
Tim Thompson.
Here.
Tony Bryant.
Present.
Candace Sullivan.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have minutes of the previous meeting?
No.
No. We won't approve them then. Okay, a few brief remarks on what we're doing here. Historic Preservation Commission is a public commission appointed by the City of New Bern's Board of Aldermen. We're responsible for preserving and safeguarding New Bern's locally designated historic districts, downtown and Riverside, based on Department of Interior guidelines, state statutes, city ordinances, and New Bern's historic guidelines. Two of the major tasks that we do are the approval of applications for a certificate of appropriateness and preventing demolition of historic structures by neglect. We're quasi-judicial hearing on the certificate of appropriateness. We hear testimony and evidence provided by the applicant, by parties who have received notice of the hearing, and by others who can justify that they have relevant comments and standing. We don't consider personal opinions and likes and dislikes. We make our decisions based on the standards that I previously discussed. Would you swear in presenters? Anyone who's going to speak tonight, you'll have to come forward and Matt will swear you in.
Okay. Come on forward if you're going to speak at all. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge? Okay. Please print your name and address.
While they're getting their names in, I'll just review the process that will follow. The HBC administrator is going to provide an overview of the application. The applicant or representative will present and have an opportunity to elaborate or clarify on that. Proponents and opponents of the application who receive notice are allowed to present evidence. Rebuttal is allowed by the applicant and proponents and opponents. Others who can justify they have relevant information and standing may provide evidence. We'll review the staff findings, and the applicant's representative will have an opportunity to make final comment. We'll have a discussion among the commissioners, and then I'll call for a motion and vote on the certificate of appropriateness. Okay, 707 East Front Street.
Okay, our first application will be 707 East Front Street. And this is the application. I'm actually going to make it a little smaller.
Let me just, are there any of us that have conflicts of interest with this particular project? Okay.
All right. This is the application for Dr. Marissa Lombardo, and she lives there at 707 East Front Street. And the rest of the application is shown here, marked off and signed by her. We provided some street view images, this street view image from 2012 of the house, so you can recognize which house we're talking about. And then the applicants provided the following photographs shown here. This is relevant because the project is at the end of this driveway on the right. You can barely see some shrubs. That's where, behind that pickup truck and a little bit of fencing, that's where the project will be. So here again, the end of the driveway where the shrubs are in front of this white fence. And now close closer in. And finally now from a broader angle here, so you can see kind of the extent of the area we're talking about. This represents the sketch that the applicant provided. We've seen this before, and it shows the existing white fence below, shown as 6 feet in height, and then the trellis construction that will be extended above that on 6x6 posts, and an area upon which at the top, I believe that's a vine or some kind of plants that will have grown up the post to get to the top and cover that top area. And let's see, and that's essentially the application. So for the zoning and inspections review, we have the zoning administrator has said that it does meet the requirements of the land use, and the chief building inspector indicates that it will not require a building permit. Other than that, we're ready with our recommendations.
Okay. Is the owner here?
The owner's representative is here.
Representative.
They did provide the appropriate certificate of owner's authorization
Does the owner's representative want to make any comments?
over there on the other side.
Sir?
Would you like to make any additional comments? Would you like to make any additional comments?
You need to come up
Oh,
here.
Come up, please.
So come up to the microphone.
Yeah, she's friends of mine, and she's not here. She had on the time. She said she had an appointment today, so I can represent her. And she wanted to do exactly what you guys say. And she sent me over here, so if you guys want to approve or not.
Okay. Did you want to add anything to what Matt covered?
No, I think
Okay.
Okay. That's
Okay.
fine.
That's fine.
it's fine. Okay.
Yep.
So go back to the
Sure, but you may be back shortly.
Are there any notified proponents of the project? Any opponents? Okay, I think we're ready for the findings.
Okay. All right. So, these are the recommendations and findings for the project at 707 East Front Street for Dr. Marissa Lombardo. The historic property name is St. Cyprian's Rectory from circa 1880 to 1900, and in 1991, the National Register, it's a contributing structure on the National Register inventory description, indicates that it was moved from 606 Johnson Street in 1991. It is 2 stories, an L plan, 2 bays wide, tall bay window right of entrance porch, and 2-story rear addition with gabled roofs. The Sandbeck description from 1988, when it was at the previous location, was described in Sandbeck, but it's not applicable to this application. So 701 East Front Street, the application is to include a trellis screen in the Tertiary AVC. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. For landscaping, 2.4.5, 2.4.7. For paint, it's 5.4.2, 5.4.3, and 5.4.4. And the statements of reason based on the information contained in the application in staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located in the tight weave development pattern. The proposal is for the construction of a trellis. 3, the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include a trellis screen in the Tertiary AVC.
Okay. Comments or questions? Fellow commissioners?
Just one, is that showing that it starts 2 feet back from the beginning of the fence and then it goes for 20 feet? Is that how I'm reading that?
It looks like it reads 20 feet
20
from the
feet.
beginning of the
Well,
fence.
but then there, at the beginning, there's a 2, isn't there?
Right.
20 feet.
It looks like 20 feet.
From, and I would say that would be from the front.
Well,
property line.
let's
So-
look.
But it doesn't start at the beginning of the fence from the street?
That's correct.
Okay.
So you can see this could be
So
20
it might be
feet.
4 feet approximately. Okay.
Mhm.
And just to clarify materials, I recall we talked in design review, Matt, 6x6s are, I presume, wood posts. And I would guess the trellis pieces at the top are wood posts. Are there not some metal infill pieces between posts at the top of the trellis?
So
Am
perhaps
I
we should
remembering
ask,
correctly?
our representative. Can you come forward, please?
Do you recall what I'm recalling, anyone?
Yeah, I don't remember there being metal though.
I thought there was a insert that went up there,
Yeah, it might
kind of
have
like a
been.
lattice.
It is, it's a black scroll metal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, the panels was metal.
Okay.
The question to you, I know you have that drawing in your hand.
And it's on the screen too.
It's on the screen. Is the
Okay.
material
Oh, yeah, yes.
between the posts?
Okay. She has some look like sharp piece of metal.
Okay.
They go all the way to the top, and they go in between the posts, and they have some holes with, I think she said gonna screw it to the post, in between the posts.
Okay.
But they look like a 1/4 inch metal, it's kind of solid, heavy, you know what I mean? It's not that heavy, but it's strong, you know what I mean?
It's metal.
Yes, metal,
Yeah.
yeah. And they go in between the posts, and they had it like, their sharp piece of metal is 4 footer by 2,
Mhm.
and they go all the way to the top,
Okay,
you know, on top of the post, well, come
Tha-
2 foot down.
Thank you.
thanks.
And I didn't see listing of materials on the application was the reason I brought it up.
Right.
Because it might not have been noticed otherwise.
We did ask for that the last time in the design review, because we was going back and forth, and we asked for, to give some kind of
A
example.
list of materials?
The materials and a list of materials. And I do have one question, is, according to this design here, is it, how far back from the fence it's gonna be? Is this gonna be on the fence, or is it gonna have a setback from the fence?
The trellis addition?
Yeah.
The trellis addition, look, from the drawing, sits right on top of the fence, right?
Yeah,
Does
They're
that
gonna
answer your
start up-
question?
Not on top, in front,
No, not on, yeah, it's in front of the fence.
in front of the
Front of-
fence.
yeah, and the front, and the fence, so, let me make sense, I'm sorry about that. So this, there's the fence right there, and we have to come over to like, she says, if you guys let do, 12 inches or more. Because she's trying to use for a privacy, kind of privacy, you know.
Because the reason why I'm asking that, and because this can be looked at as we're looking at it as an accessory, but somebody can come along and look at it as an extension of the fence, so that makes it that they're getting away with a 12-foot fence when we have a regulation of 6 feet.
Mhm.
So if it's set back from the fence, then it's an accessory. But if it's touching the fence or being supported by the fence, it becomes an extension of the fence, and then it's no longer in the guidelines.
Mhm.
Good point.
Good point. Yeah. I assume from the drawing that this is attached to the fence.
Attached to the fence.
It is,
Well,
or no?
that would be problematic, as he just stated.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I think you had suggested, the applicant has suggested that it's at least 12 inches away from the fence.
It's a foot away from the fence.
Yes.
Yes, what she,
So if
Trying
we
to
made that a
do-
condition, that it be a foot from the fence, then,
Yes, that might be a good way, because the drawings do not specify,
Okay.
or the application does not specify, so.
Okay, so when and if we consider a motion, that'll be a condition. Are there other questions? That's a good point, Tony, thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'd call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to find the application for 707 East Front Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinances, sections 15411 to 15429, and New Bern's Historic District guidelines, based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact: landscaping 2.4, 5, and 7, paint 5.42, 5.42, 3, and 4. And the project, findings of fact, the project is located in the tight weave development pattern. The proposal is the construction of a trellis. The proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines, and the zoning administrator and the chief building inspector have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. Fifth and final, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
And a condition?
And I would propose one condition, that the trellis structure be 12 inches inside of the existing fence.
Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Carries.
Yep,
Need a motion to issue the COA.
that's correct.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, we issue the COA. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Issue the COA.
All right, you're good to go.
Good to go?
I will be issuing the COA and sending it to her.
Okay, all
All
right.
right,
Thanks so much.
yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, 212 Chain Street.
Okay. Next one, 212 Change Street. This is the application here for Dr. and Mrs. Scott McClellan, and their representative is Lucian Bond of Tar Heel Associates. They have attachments for the various parts of that application, and then checked off all of the bottom here. And Mr. Lucian Bond, like I said, here is his certificate of appropriateness owner's authorization with a notarized signature. And the description of the work. So this is actually from the original COA. So the application before you today, or the issue before you today, is an amendment to this application. So since we have several new members, I thought I would just briefly go over this so we can, like in this case, do the bullet points. They did some alterations to the existing contributing structure listed there, and then also to the accessory structure in the secondary AVC. I'm sorry. The top bullet items are for alterations in the tertiary AVC, and the second one is for the secondary AVC items. And they provided all of the guidelines at the time, and a list of materials for all those various things. And they also provided the Sandbeck book excerpt for 212 Change. They provided a number of illustrations, and this being a full-page drawing, I will have to make this smaller for you. This was the, essentially, there was a porch extension. Well, let's start on the left. There was a small little closet added to the outbuilding. There was then in the middle of the page, an extension to the screened-in porch. There was an extension to the roof that shelters a portion of the patio at ground level, and construction of an outdoor kitchen and counter, and then also the construction of a pergola And then there was also considerable, and a gate, sorry, forgot about that one. The gate at the entrance, at the end of the driveway, the entrance to the backyard. And there was also considerable, so these are all those drawings for that. And considerable landscaping, that's where I was headed. You can see here briefly, and then now, and that was what we just passed was the whole planting plan and the planting list. This was the building inspector's report, and then our recommendations. And finally, they did receive the COA, which is shown here at the bottom. Okay, and there were no conditions?
So all of that has been approved.
Yes, so that was all approved.
Can I just ask, I neglected to ask, are there any conflicts of interest with this project?
No, sir.
Commissioners, no, okay.
And I just noticed. Okay, so now they provided even a new application as a modification. And I'm going to make this bigger because it is too hard to read for the recording or the public, and maybe even the rest of us. So, and I apologize for the way this program works. All right, so now we have, in this case, now the description is to install an in-ground fiberglass pool and to install an above-ground fiberglass hot tub. And there's some other revisions to the previous plan, such as landscaping and paving. So they've provided the drawings for that. And again, Mr. Vaughn has signed for that. He's provided the appropriate guidelines related to this particular application. And now I have to go back the other way. Let's do that. Yeah, we could probably do this. All right, so the gate does not change. The porch extension does not change. The overhang does not change. Looks like the kitchen went away? No. Oh, okay. All right. So, but the pergola is still there, the little closet's still there, and now you see there's a pool shown here. And the only difference, there was I believe a crepe myrtle to be planted there, but there isn't one there now. So, and then, yes, it's now moved, the one that was to be planted there has been moved beside the hot tub over here. And this is the hot tub at this location. So, let's see what else. So they provided some renderings to give you a little better idea. You can see the pool here and the hot tub on the upper right, the pergola, and I get, does that paving really represent your new paving down here with the little shrubbies and the kind of step stones of paving? Do you see them there? Yeah. Are you proposing to change the paving between the pool and the house that way? Or was that just the renderer going amok, running amok? That is the way. Okay. Because I did not see it on the plans. All right. So you can ignore that, because there are other parts of the rendering that'll be ignored too. But for example, the way the house looks, that has nothing to do with this proposal. And I think on the upper right there's an illustration as well. Yes. So that shows you the pool, and this shows you the hot tub. It has some steps that go up to it.
And the only landscaping difference is the movement of that tree, it sounds like.
Well,
Or
A lot of
pretty-
other shrubs
not
are,
moving.
yeah, a lot of other shrubs are
Okay.
gone.
Okay.
But for the most part, yes, that's the most significant landscape change. All right, so then we have a new zoning and inspections form. It does meet the requirements of the land use ordinance, and the chief building inspector says that it will require a building permit, ensure all pool barrier requirements are met.
That means fencing around it, pool barrier, does that mean like fence?
Like around the property?
I think
Yeah.
that's what that means.
Okay, and then we're ready with our recommendations.
Okay, are there any proponents of that project here to speak? Opponents? Oh, would you like to comment, Lucian? No. Anybody else? No? Okay. Go ahead with your findings.
Oh, all right. So this is or these are the findings and recommendations for 212. Sorry, new laptop. All right, 212 Chain Street for Dr. and Ms. Scott McClellan. This is the Seymour Rental House, and it is a contributing structure in the National Register inventory from 2003. It was built circa 1890 to 95. It's 2 stories L plan, tall bay window in the left front facade, wraparound porch, and pedimented roof gables. The sandback description for 1988, portion that may be of any relevance is the house is distinguished by its 4 pedimented gables. So for 212 Chain Street, to add a pool and hot tub in the Tertiary AVC as an amendment to the previously approved COA. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. For landscaping, 2.4.3 and 5. For accessory structures, 2.6.1, if you think it's even an accessory structure. Otherwise, you can eliminate that. And design principles are 3.1.1. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located in the tight weave development pattern. 2, the proposal is the construction of a pool and a hot tub. 3, the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to add a pool and hot tub in the Tertiary AVC as an amendment to the previously approved COA.
Okay. Comments and questions from the commissioners?
Not even me? No, I believe it is appropriate to compare this application or these structures in the backyard to accessory structures, and they're in the tertiary area of visual concern. And essentially, they're replacing some playground equipment, if I recall correctly. And, well, it's on the drawing. Nevertheless, I'm not going to take you back there, Lucian. It's in the tertiary AVC.
And there are other pools.
And there are other pools in the district.
downtown, so.
Okay, others?
Sorry to bring that up.
Okay, are there other questions or concerns? I'll entertain a motion on this amendment to an approved COA.
I move that we find the proposed amendment to a certificate of appropriateness for 212 Change Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, sections 15411 to 15429, and New Bern's Historic District Guidelines, based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Landscaping, 2.4.3, 2.4.5, accessory structures, 2.6.1, design principles, 3.1.1. Statement of reason or findings of fact, the project is located in the tight weave development pattern. The proposal is the construction of a pool and hot tub. The proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. Zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed the project and commented accordingly, and the project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Tony seconds the motion. All in favor of the motion, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Do we have to reissue a COA, or
We do
is
not.
there something, nothing
No.
to issue? Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Okay.
All right, all good.
211 Johnson.
Okay, so here's the application for 211 Johnson Street. And it is for, the property owners are Mr. and Ms. Douglas Townsend, and our representative, authorized representative, is indicated by the provided documentation, is Mr. Jonathan Wilkins. So I do not know why this is doing pages up and down at the moment. All right, so they've provided extensive description. Wait, I believe this is the one from the original again. I'm reviewing the original. Yeah, this is going to be very tedious. Yes, so this is the original one that was from the first time around. And in that particular case, we have a project that entailed, going to show first quite a few things. So first, at the very top here, we have the front 3 rooms of the original structure. The original historic structure, and then on the back have been some additions in the past, including, how much was including, you can see a dashed line, I believe, right around the middle, at the kitchen counter here. So I believe that was the addition, and then it came around to an L-shaped addition. So the original COA allowed for extending this screen porch in the upper right, or in the upper middle of the screen at the moment, out to where you see the shrubs, and adding a fireplace and chimney, and then adding a new pair of doors here. Then the rest of the L addition was extended all the way down to, at the bottom of the page, the original historic kitchen. It was a separate kitchen building, and now the previously approved plan extended the house all the way down to connect to that kitchen, thereby creating a larger kitchen area here on the screen with the counter and such. That entire wall then was revised to include trifold doors that would open to the patio. And the patio was a series of steps immediately outside those doors. And you can see pairs of columns here. Those will become important in a minute. Then the kitchen was to be remodeled, and there was an amendment in order to allow that kitchen to be elevated because of, I think, floodplain issues. Then an additional addition was added, then extending the house, the whole series of rooms of the house, all the way down to and abutting up against, but not passing through to, the garage at the bottom of the screen here. So creating a bath and wardrobe area there. And then in addition to that, so all of that new construction also had some new landscaping, in it, as well as the entire pavement area was new. And then you can also see there's a pool that was also approved at the time, this long pool here. The fence was approved at the time, all the landscaping, and I think we may even have that at the time. So this gives you an idea of the elevations, and to note here in particular is the roof over that addition between the, I think it's 1950s extension, let's just call it, out to the kitchen building. It was relatively flat roof, approved that way, and the extension of the screened-in porch, also a low slope roof over here on the next to the new chimney. Let's see, and you can also see here the series of steps that come down from all those doors down to the ground level. Let's see. Next, this is a section which will you'll see here. It shows that relatively flat roof across the new kitchen extension. Maybe we'll call it that, and the doorway, I guess, out onto the roof. And then on the flip side of all that, so you can see the original, well, the 1950s extension here on the left, the proposed addition here with 2 windows and a doorway out to this side of the house, the original kitchen, and then the new extension to the right over to and abutting the garage. All right. Is that totally clear to everybody? So here are some renderings that they provided at the time, so you can see that a little, maybe imagine it a little bit better. And another interesting feature was this curve here to make the transition from the front of the, I guess, patio cover over to the existing historic kitchen. And here's another view. All right. And then, so those that were just there were the ones before the kitchen was, these two are the same things, but before the kitchen was approved to be elevated. So, and then we had all of those forms at the time and our recommendations, and this was the amended, the most recent COA had with the amendment for the elevated kitchen. So now I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this because there is a condition on this one. That a landscaping plan will be submitted and approved at the point in time when it is appropriate, which is prior to the removal of existing landscaping and trees. The landscaping plan is to include which trees are proposed to replace the trees that are proposed to be removed. They did subsequently do that, so that condition has been satisfied. There was a whole separate COA for that. Okay, so now we're to today, finally. So the new plan is similar to the other one. So it still has the basic shape and size of all the rooms are all the same relative to the exterior. So we have that screened-in porch, we have the extended kitchen attaching to the historic kitchen. In this case, the trifold doors are still there too, although it's now 4 on this, or 5 on this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side and 3 on this side, I guess. And the stairway has now become a deck. So with the stairs up at the top here leading down to some paving, and then stairs down here leading to a small landing at the bottom, and I'm guessing the rest is lawn, or just, or the same paving as before?
Grass.
Yes, okay. All right. And so then, as far as floor plan goes, the rest of the scheme is still the same with, there's now a wing wall here, that wasn't in before, right? I don't think so. So, must have been a dimensional adjustment there. Okay. So, more drawings. So this is now the roofing plan. They're proposing to not do that curved form here at the corner of the overhang. And the roof slope will be the same for the lower portion. Over the porch will be 3.24 in 12. Yeah, 3.24 in 12, which is the same as the one that's over the screen porch extension. Whereas the flat roof area is now proposed to be 10.5 and 12. And so we'll see that here in a second. And on the other side of the kitchen, the historic kitchen, which is here on the top of the screen, the garage at the bottom, the roof slope is 9.5 and 12. So here we have the framing plan. This over a little bit more again. We can come back to that if we need it. And then the elevations. So this elevation was wider than the page, so they cut it in half. So at first we'll talk about the roofing, the roof shape or form over the screened-in porch extension. Seems to be the same as it was before. And so now the new change is to actually have the roofing be the same slope as that, also on the roof over the new deck. All right. And that's what that would look like in elevation. Oh, that works. So the flat roof area would have been this area here above the folding doors. It now has a gable roof form, and so the ridge is now much higher than it was before. The roof form for the kitchen, for the historic kitchen, stays essentially the same. And then for the extension from the historic kitchen to the garage, it also has the gable roof form instead of a flat roof. And then there's an additional a less wide gable roof attaching that extension to the roof of the garage. Is that all clear as mud?
So the changes is a deck versus stairs and roof configuration. Is that it?
Yes,
in a
and the
nutshell?
one door, and there's there's also on the back side a change. So on the back side, the doorway is a single door, and the two windows that were here have now become not this, but what has been handed out at your desk. So instead of these 4 horizontal windows, they're proposing 2 square windows with the circular mullions in there, or muntins in there.
3.
Oh, 3, sorry. I guess I had it all out. And let's see what else. That's it. So We can see in section here some of the explanation. So they actually needed a place to put the HVAC unit, and the flat roof was not tall enough to do that. And so the next best solution was to make a gable roof that was tall enough to actually look appropriate. And so there's that, and then you can see, and then they changed the steps to this deck. You see that in section there. And then this is the section through the bathroom. You can see the stairway for the back door, as it were, on the left. So this bath is the area that connects between the historic kitchen, which you see the chimney here on the right, and then you're looking towards that kitchen, but you're cutting through the building, through the bath, and behind you is the garage. And that too needed an HVAC unit, and that's why that's also a taller roof. All right, and so these are just details on this page, and more details on that page. Details through the deck. And a door and window schedule. So my one question for the applicant is the windows are indicated to be wood/fiberglass. Is the fiberglass only on the inside?
We were proposing to use Marvin windows.
Is the fiberglass only on the inside?
It's on the outside.
Okay. Wrong answer.
But you
So that'll be
flexible.
one change.
That needs to be changed.
Yeah, that could be a condition.
Okay, we ready for questions?
I think so. We have the zoning and inspections. You can see the zoning administrator says it meets the requirements of the land use ordinance, and the chief building inspector says, of course, it will require a building permit. Permit is already issued. Please provide updated plans. And then I am ready whenever you are.
Okay. Once again, any conflicts of interest on this one? No? Hearing none? Okay. Is there anything you want to add? No? Okay. Questions? Or you want to give us your findings first?
Okay. So for 211 Johnson Street, that was going to happen. Okay. This is for Mr. and Ms. Douglas Townsend at 211 Johnson Street. The project is to include amending the previously approved COA to change the roof line, porch layout, windows, and details in the Tertiary AVC. National Register inventory information listed as the Mitchell-Stephen House, built circa 1800 to 1805, and then remodeled 1830 to 1840, and obviously then later additions as well. It is a contributing structure. Description is 2 stories, 4 bays wide, exterior end chimneys, and gable end roof and attic dormers. The sand bed description relevant to the project from 1988. The entire house is covered with beaded weatherboarding. The large 2-story rear L was added during the 20th century, connecting the house to its original but much altered kitchen. An early 19th century 2-story porch shelters the rear elevation. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. For design principles, 3.1.1, 2, and 4. For modifications, 3.2.1, 2, and 3. For additions, 3.3.2 and 3. For walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.1 and 4. For windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.1, 2, and 3. For roofs, 4.5.1 and 4. For decks and patios, 4.6.1 and 4. Guidelines for masonry, 5.1.1 and 2. Wood, 5.2.1 and 2. For metals, 5.3.1. For paint, 5.4.1, 2, 3, and 4. Based on the statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the structure is a contributing resource in the tight weave development pattern. 2, the project is a modification and addition within the secondary and tertiary AVCs. 3, the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to amend the previously approved COA to change the roof line, porch layout, windows, and details in the tertiary AVC with the following conditions. That all exterior materials are those that were available at the time the primary building was originally constructed, including but not limited to the decking, steps, and exterior surfaces of the windows. That all windows are either vertical or square, however they just changed that, so strike that one. That the roofing sheet schedule and details on drawing sheet A 1.2 be revised to clearly indicate that the pan width may not be greater than 24 inches. That's just a tiny little detail that was on there. And fourthly, or I guess now thirdly, that the roofing be noted on the plans to be perfectly flat with no corrugation, including no striations or ribs. That's the end of our report.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I think my only question, Jonathan, can you run down the materials that are different from the materials that were previously approved? And I'm hoping that's an easy.
There's really nothing.
Okay. And we've already noted the discrepancy with the window material.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm presuming wood is okay?
Windows, I'm curious about that big door.
Well, could be interesting. Better get some wheels.
We may have to revise.
Okay. Okay.
Well, but the wheels wouldn't be in conflict with the materials.
Correct.
Right. It's not the wheels. The weight of the wood is what you're talking about?
Well, I just wanted to make it.
Oh.
So,
I did note, though, that the decking material, I wasn't quite sure what that was, notated on there.
It says somewhere on there, Sabine.
It's what? Yeah, what is that? Plywood? Oh, mahogany. Oh. Oh, okay.
As well as the railings.
There are rails.
Oh, so, what,
Pretty much.
just 2 steps down?
Yeah, it's less than 30 inches from ground.
Sapele?
but beyond that, it just appears to be a refinement of fenestration for the most part. You know, you'll probably be better served with those pitched roofs anyway.
Yeah. So this, on the screen, it shows 5/4 sapele? Sapele? Okay, thank you.
It's wood, very similar to mahogany.
Is it composition or wood?
It's wood.
It's wood.
Mhm. Cool.
Other questions or concerns?
Oh, wait, so then with regard to that, is that more weather resistant than pine or pressure-treated wood? Sapele? Yes, okay. So, because we typically require that all wood be either stained or painted, That may be a condition where it may not be necessary, unless you're planning on clear
This
coat.
will have clear finish.
A clear coat, right. So, because normally it has to be an opaque stain or paint for wood. But in this particular case, we would allow, if the HPC agrees, that they can use a clear coat.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it.
Other questions? Hearing none, ready for a motion.
I've got it written down, let's see. Mr. Chairman, I move to find the amendment for 211 Johnson Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinances, section 15411 to 15429, and New Bern's Historic District guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. From the guidelines, design principles 3.1.1, 2, and 4, modifications 3.2.1, 2, and 3, additions 3.3.2 and 3, walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.1 and 4, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.1, 2, and 3, roofs 4.5.1 and 4, decks and patios 4.6.1 and 4, masonry 5.1.1 and 2, wood 5.2.1 and 2, metals 5.3.1, paint 5.4.1, 2, 3, and 4. Findings of,
You might remove 5.4.3 and 4.
okay, so it's 5.4.1 and 2.
Mhm.
Findings of fact, the structure is a contributing resource in the tight weave development pattern. The project is a modification and addition within the secondary and tertiary AVCs. The proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines, and the zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly, finding the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. The following conditions: number one, that all exterior materials are those that were available at the time the primary building was originally constructed, including but not limited to the decking, steps, and the exterior surfaces of the windows. Number two, that all windows, drop that the roofing sheet schedule and details on drawing sheet A 1.2 be revised to clearly indicate that the pan width may not be greater than 24 inches. And last, that the roofing be noted on the plans to be perfectly flat with no corrugation, including no striations or ribs, and that all windows shall be wood facing the exterior, and that decking may have a clear coat.
The first bullet item already says that the windows, exterior surfaces of the windows.
But we just want to make that clear, since
Okay.
it was a
All
point
right,
of,
that's fine.
yeah.
Jim, you finished? Yep. Okay, is there a second?
So moved.
Moved and seconded that we approve with the conditions noted. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And we don't need to issue anything, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Any old business?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll see.
All right.
We have no public to comment. Did you distribute the 23 calendar?
Did I?
You're wanting us to comment on it.
I know I
Yeah.
created it, but we can talk about it. Oops, I have it on my computer here. I think I was intending to move it to the Dropbox this morning, but did not get to it.
Is there a need to approve it tonight, or can you shoot it out so we can look at it next meeting?
The next chance you would have to approve it is the second meeting in November. I think if I present it at the moment, it will be pretty straightforward.
Could you just clarify any differences from first and third Wednesday? That's probably the
Yeah,
issue.
there are none.
Okay, in that
Except,
case,
and
Okay.
December is no meeting.
Okay.
So let's see.
Can't we just vote on it tonight?
You want us to vote on it tonight?
It's up to you guys. I would prefer it, then I can start to tell people when the meeting is in
Okay.
January.
you know, I move we
Yes,
find
that's
the
purpose of voting on it
calendar
tonight.
presented by the HPCA to be approved with no meetings in December.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we approve the meeting as described. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none?
So here it is, right here. So our first meeting in January is on the 4th. And we have all of them are first and third Wednesdays.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
So that may give you a chance then if you find, say, oh, my goodness, that Wednesday happens to be not Christmas or
Yeah.
Thanksgiving or the day before Thanksgiving, and so we'll move it to,
And the
but
day
it's not,
after.
it's a week before Thanksgiving, so.
Is there anything of significance in your report that you need to
Oh, so let's.
tell us about?
What was that? Let's look at that a second. Okay, so only that I have many pending issuing of COAs, but other than that, we were expecting to have the feasibility study team for the HIP work group show up, but they didn't. So we can skip that, I suppose. I mean, they are in town. They have met with our two HPC members that are members of that, the HIP work group, as well as many of the rest of the HIP work group people, and also, who else did they meet with? The redevelopment commission chairperson, and and we also took a drive through the neighborhood yesterday with them, and they also spoke to at least one resident so far that I know of. And
Newsom and Ben?
what's that?
Newsom and Ben?
Oh, and Newsom and Ben. So Newsom, Williams, and Ben
Parish.
Parish, right? Since they, in the past, have done similar projects, carried out similar projects. So, yeah. Anyone, you guys have any other comments you want to add to that?
It was a productive meeting. They were certainly prepared.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Did it?
That's it.
Any comments from the board? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.